There are all kinds of people out there. I don't need to tell you that. I'm quite sure you've already figured it out. If you haven't, well, you know now. There are all kinds of people out there. I am that person who has a very hard time not paying attention to what is going on around him. There are other people that I know, in fact, the majority of other people that I know, I can basically sneak up on without trying, and I have to flag them down to get their attention, and sometimes it freaks them out because they're not expecting for me to have come up on them like I did. But I'm that guy who absolutely has a hard time dealing with lots of things going on around me. So when they do the open office type of configuration where I'm in a little cube, it actually is hard for me because I hear everything that's going on around me a lot of the time if I'm not very careful about it. I bring that up because I think that has something to do with the subject for today. Subject for today is awareness on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Wednesday, the 20th of April, 2022, that middle of the work week, for those of us who work a standard work week. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page, on Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com. By the way, the Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. On Minds.com, that's MINDS, on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, primarily there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be picking me up, whether you're watching or listening to me today. Subject for today is awareness, as I say, and I'm going to go ahead and get through my notes, and this will give you some idea sort of where I am at this moment in time. A lot of my podcasts are the result of things that happen in my life. It's true, the ones I'm most likely to identify the source for are from others, like Dinesh D'Souza or Drew Berquist, or I'm trying to think of his name. Anyway, various people, right? Sometimes it'll be Dan Mongino and just various people that I'll hear say things at various times, Tim Pool and others. But that said, I very often come up with something in the seemingly most mundane circumstances. Case in point, I try to take at least one daily walk on the days that I work. I like to do that on the weekends as well, but I often just don't get the chance. That's got to do with my son and his nervousness about my not being there when he wakes up. When I work from home, the, quote, track, end of quote, is around the block near my house. More or less across the street from it, you could say. That can be a place where cluelessness reigns, though it's not the case. Usually, in fact, it's pretty quiet, and I don't encounter a large number of folks when I go there, when I walk that walk. At the workplace, though, I've marked out a, quote, track, end of quote, that goes around a couple of buildings. It's when I use that little trail that I deal with folks who seem totally lacking in a simple trait. By the way, if you hear my son in the background, you'll have to forgive him. He seems to be predisposed to being noisy today. The subject of this edition of the podcast, to wit, awareness, was born out of that experience and a few others. It's seriously amazing to me how many folks who work near me seem to have so little of that resource, that awareness resource. I started to title things self-awareness, but began to realize so many seem to lack any awareness at all. Maybe I'm being overly charitable. I suppose it's possible that people are being malicious. Even if not, maybe, they just don't care enough to not seem like they have no idea where they are. In the long run, I tend to choose the position that they mostly just don't really pay much attention to what's going on around them. This also seems to be true on the roadways and in local stores and restaurants. I admit some are just trying to, quote, get theirs, end of quote. Put another way, some know very well what they're doing and continue to do it on purpose. For most, though, I truly don't believe that's the case. I honestly believe most of them are either unable or unwilling to cultivate the art of comprehending and recognizing what's happening around them. And I'm not sure which it is. I'll just tell you that now. I guess my hope is if I take the time to point this out, maybe someone out there will see themselves in my description and work to perfect or at least somewhat correct themselves. If you're like me, though, you spend your time dodging such people on an ongoing and regular basis. I can't speak to why that's the case. I would truly love to hear from you, whoever's paying attention to what I'm putting out there. Why do you think so many seem to lack that recognition of their environment? Do you have an idea? Any idea? Any idea? If so, feel free to comment or find some other way to point me to, as it were, to the correct direction as to why that's the case. Because I've got to tell you, I don't know. And this is the thing. I go shopping at one of the local fairly large stores. And I honestly am amazed at the fact that people can camp out in places that I want to be. And I don't think they're doing it because I want to be there. I've said this before. It's not that I think that those people are going, ha ha ha, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to thwart this guy to keep him from getting in to do the things that he wants to do. Yet they'll park in an aisle, and the thing is, it's almost like they have this a sixth sense or whatever you want to say, that makes them, something flying around here, that makes them go, aha, I need to stay here because I feel a disturbance in the force. Obviously, I'm being silly, right? I don't think that that's what's happening at all. I don't. I honestly don't believe that. But what I do think is that they're honestly clueless about the idea. I go to a local restaurant and they have a drink machine like a lot of places do, a fountain drink machine. I don't even drink fountain drinks anymore, but most places keep their water on the fountain drink machine. So if you want to get water, you've got to go to the fountain drink thing, and maybe if you want to get ice as well. So if you want ice water, you got to get ice from there and water from there. And I am astounded at how many people, first of all, do not seem to understand that you don't camp out in front of that location. Some of them who aren't even getting drinks. They just decide that they need to be standing in that particular place when you're trying to get to it. Some of them are getting drinks. They finish up getting their drinks and they take 20 minutes in what they're doing. And again, that would be bad enough. But then when you're there trying to get into the place where they are, it honestly seems like it doesn't dawn on them, like they can't comprehend, hey, this person actually wants to come over here and has a legitimate use for this machine as well, this drink machine as well. And this happens to me, like I say, all over where people seem to take that tack and that perspective. Now, it may sort of be what you could refer to as thoughtlessness, to be fair. I don't know. I can't say for sure. I'm inclined to say at least a part of it is a failure at awareness and a failure to be able to put themselves in the place of other people. Maybe that's a part of it too, sort of an empathy, sort of a perspective. I don't know. All I know at this point, and by the way, I'm open to hear that any of what I believe is wrong here. If it's not a lack of awareness, if that's not the problem, you tell me what you think is going on, and maybe I'll go, ooh, yeah, maybe that's right. Or maybe I'll decide that you're mistaken. But what I'm trying to get across here, though, is it's amazing to me how many people seem to be largely unaware of their circumstances, and I don't understand how that can be or why. I believe that the lady who hit me the other night, the thing I talked about yesterday, I think part of it was that she was unaware of her circumstances. She wasn't, quote, paying attention. She wasn't aware. She didn't see. She didn't comprehend what was going on around her. I believe that there's a lot of that going on. And maybe, like I say, maybe I'm mistaken about that. Possibly I'm mistaken about that. But that's the impression that I get. Like I say, for me, you put me in a cubicle somewhere, and I just can't help lots of times hearing everything that's going on around me. And sometimes I try to work to ignore it because I know I have to pay attention to other things. But lots of times that's not an option, and I'm going to hear what people have to say. And I'll end up involved in conversations sometimes as a result, which I suppose is good in a way because it lets me interact with the people that I work with. But sometimes there's just nothing I can do about it, and I have to listen sometimes to totally inane conversation where people seem to be totally unaware that they're opening themselves up in front of other people that maybe that's not the wise thing to do. So there seems to be this real problem with awareness as I see it. And I've been noticing this since I was a kid, so this is nothing new. None of this to me is anything new. I am acutely aware of both myself and others, acutely so. And I think that there are other people out there who are like that as well. Okay, I need to think about wrapping things up. I really am interested to hear other people's take on this. Do you think it's a lack of awareness? Is it something else? What do you think it is? If it's not a lack of awareness, help me to understand what is going on. I need to go ahead and wrap up, as I say, though. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I am your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Wednesday, the 20th of April of 2022. It means tomorrow will be Thursday, working ever closer to that end of the week. The 21st of April of 2022. Won't be long till that Friday is dawning on us. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloutHub, on the Facebook page, Kurt's Religion and Politics Facebook, or at Facebook rather, Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com. I get those two. I run those two on if I'm not careful a lot. On Minds, minds.com, primarily on the Kurt's Religion and Politics group there. On Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you may be catching me today. Subject for today is awareness, and tomorrow's subject came up as a result of listening again to Dinesh D'Souza as he described his why do bad things happen to good people, why is the world full of evil, and so forth. What do people think about that and God? And I want to talk about that because I think he missed it in some pretty major ways. And I really sort of want to correct the record on what I, as a Christian, think about why the things that are happening and have happened are happening and have happened, and for that matter will. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you, and hopefully we will see you again on Thursday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was created on Wednesday, the 20th of April of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow to check out the next one. Remember, on various platforms, primarily Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloutHub, and the audio podcast, you can subscribe to my content. For the audio podcast, you probably want to use Apple, Google, or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. In order to find me on those platforms, you can go to the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloutHub. You can also get to my content on Facebook by finding the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. Minds, minds.com, where you will find me at the Kurt's Religion and Politics group. And Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com as well. You can look there. I post my daily video on various social media sites, really only about 3, Parler, Gab, and Twitter at present. I am at KP Schubert on each of them, and you can find me under them, and you can find the videos under me. You should be able to find my podcasts on Google and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's also on podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcasts with an S. .kpschubert.com. If you're looking for me on various of the podcast sites, you probably want to search Kurt's Religion and Politics, not the Daily Summation. Keep in mind you can subscribe to my content on various places that I put it. All constructive feedback is welcome. You can like, dislike, add a rumble, or give whatever feedback is available on any of the platforms that you can do such things. You can also add a comment on what I put there. Unless you're advertising or doing something that I believe will harm others, I'll leave your comments out there even if I don't agree with or understand them. I will try to let you know I've seen them when possible and may reply if I feel it's reasonable, appropriate, and possible, of course. Thanks again for viewing this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back again for tomorrow's as well.